happen at some point. Now, later, what's up, Cole? How are you, buddy?
Doing good.
Later, what happened is that relationship would continue to break down. Because what happened is Adam and Eve did exactly what God asked. They got busy and they had a lot of kids. And among all those kids that they had 2 boys. One was named Cain and the other was Abel. Cain was a farmer. Abel worked with sheep. And every year God would ask a sacrifice of his people to bring what they had, their best, to him as a way to say thank you. Thank you for all that you've given us. And one of the things that they did was, as they brought that, was Abel brought forth some of his best sheep, and Cain just brought forth some fruits and vegetables that he had. And so what happened was God looked very pleased on what Abel had brought, but not on what Cain did. And Cain was pissed off, and he was mad. And he looked and he was like, hold on. My brother brought sheep, I brought some vegetables. What's wrong with my vegetables? And God said, it's just they weren't your best. Your brother brought some of his best sheep. And the longer he talked, the more pissed off Cain got. And he sat there and he's like, and God could see it. He goes, I see that hate in your heart. I see that anger that you have within you. And if you don't control that anger, if you don't bring it in, it's going to overtake you. And you're going to lash out. It's going to be like a tiger. And if you don't contain that tiger, it's going to strike and it's going to hurt you in a way. And so what happened was Cain didn't want to hear anything of that, so he walked off. Well, a few days later, he approached his brother Abel and he said, hey, I want to show you something I've been growing in the field. And he walked with Abel out into the field, and then he jumped Abel from behind, he hit him in the skull and killed him. Because he just so hated his brother. And then he dug a grave and hid his brother so that no one would find him. Well, later on, God came up to Cain and he said, hey, where's your brother Abel? I've been looking, I haven't been able to see him. Where is he? And he said, and he looks at him and he goes, I don't know. I'm not his mom. I mean, you're God. You should know where he is. That's not my job. And as God looked at him, he said, you know exactly where he is. I saw what you did with your brother. All that hate, all that anger that you had in you, it overtook you and you killed him yesterday and you hid him in that field. And you killed him and you hit him. And Cain at that point knew that he had been busted. He knew that he had been found out. And God looked at him and said, now listen, you were scared to death. And your brothers and sisters, when they found out you had killed their brother, are going to come and try to kill you. And I'm not going to let that happen. In fact, I'm going to put a mark on you. I'm going to make something that distinguishes you so that any time someone sees you, they know that they're not supposed to touch you. I'm not going to let the same anger, the same violence that you took out on your brother, I'm not going to let that happen to you. And so what happened is Cain looks at God, and he didn't know what to say, and God says, on top of that, though, you can't stay here anymore. You have to leave. And you're going to go to another land. And Cain looked at him and says, that's too much. Hold on, you're asking me to leave everyone I know, everything I've seen, to go to a land. What are you talking about? And God looked at him and said, no. You brought this on yourself. You killed your brother. How could you ever kill your brother? This has all been brought on you. You should die right now, but I'm not going to do that because I love you. And so with that, Cain had to go into this brave new world that he had never seen before. Well, that hate and anger that you saw happen with Cain only multiplied with each generation, to where finally there was so much violence and so much anger that God was deeply hurt, he was deeply wounded, and he looked at me and said, you know what, I need to change things, I need to reboot. And so he went and he found this family. There was this guy named Noah. He was a good man, and his wife was a good woman, and they had 3 sons. And those 3 sons had married 3 women, and they were all good, upright people. And so God says, you know what? I'm going to restore things through you guys. And I know you live in the desert. I know you've never seen rain, but it's going to rain, and it's going to rain for 40 days, and there's going to be a flood, and I'm going to flood this earth. And people are going to think you're nuts when you tell them this. Just like I'm nuts for probably talking out here right now. And so, but you just got to trust me. And so that's exactly what Noah did. And so he started building this boat in the desert. People would walk by and be like, why are you building a boat in the desert? You're stupid. You're crazy. Again, just like crazy as I am telling you this story right now. And so what happened is once he had got it built, it started to rain. But right before it did, God wanted all the small animals. He led them into that ark so he could bring them and Noah's family through this great flood. And then he closed the door. And then it rained, and it rained, and it rained for 40 days. And people would bang on the door, and they said, let us in, let us in. You're not crazy after all. What's the problem? And Noah looked down, and he says, there's nothing I can do. I don't have a door. I can't. The door's been shut. And so they perished. They died. And then at the end of 40 days, that rain stopped. And over many months, the rain slowly began to go down to where that boat came to rest on some land. And God opened the door, and he let them out, and he said, listen, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to judge the earth by flood again. But all this relationships, all this hate and anger that caused me to do this, I don't want to see that happen again. I want you to trust me. I want you to follow me. I want you to love me like I love you. Now, as God was saying this, he knew that people weren't going to listen. He knew that all the bad things were going to happen again. And so in his mind, he had another rescue plan, another special family that he was going to use to bring forth a special child. And we'll learn about that child tomorrow if you decide to come back. But in the meantime, if you got any questions about the story, happy to answer them. And I've got questions about the story. So it's just totally up to you. That's it. What's up, buddy?
What about the part where